What's up, everybody? It is like 6 degrees outside and it's windy, and which makes it feel like it's 10 below. So it's pretty cold. We have the heater, little heater here in the garage. Garage isn't insulated though, so still a little cold. Anyway, today we're gonna be doing a few things to this RMZ-450. So simple maintenance things like oil change, coolant change, engine oil filter, chain adjustment. Just basically going over the whole bike and taking care of it. And the hot start cable is broken as well, so we're going to be replacing that. So let's get started. So we got the tank off, which that's going to give us access to the spark plug, top of the head, and the main thing is the carburetor. The carburetor is getting a rebuild kit put in it, cleaned up, and we're putting a rebuild kit in it. And then the fuel line needs to be replaced as well. So a little bit of maintenance, nothing out of the ordinary. We'll show you how some of the stuff's done. So getting the carburetor out on these, just make your life simple right away and just take off the rear subframe. There's only like 4 bolts, 3 or 4 bolts, maybe 5 including the exhaust bolts, and just take the whole rear subframe off, and then take your air box off as well. Makes your life a whole lot easier. And then the carburetor, if I can get this thing to work. Carburetor sits in there. As you can see, we have it pulled up. So you can get it pulled up through the top, as you can see. And then you have the connection here you need to loosen. And then you need to loosen the cover for the throttle cables. Pop that off. Loosen the throttle cables, and your carburetor's out. Carburetor's out. Now we can access the spark plug, change that out, and we're going to be changing the oil. We're going to be draining the coolant, replacing the fluids, and like I said, the hot start. We're going to be replacing that cable. All right. So as you can see, we got the new spark plug down in there, and we're getting ready to change the oil using a Suzuki filter here, and then I'm using the Amsoil synthetic dirt 1040. You can use 1050 as well. I'm going with the 1040. The reason I use Amsoil is because my personal vehicles and all my motorcycles, street dirt, everything just seems to run better, and this takes care of it. Make sure you look up the Amsoil link on my page and everything if you want more information. It's good stuff. Like in the video prior, like I said, I ran the dirt 1050 in the DRZ 125 and did a 10-mile hair scramble, and the bike didn't overheat, didn't blow any seals, and it's an air-cooled bike, so the DRZ is an air-cooled bike and it did really well. So we're going to be changing the oil on this. You can see in there, bolt right there that's pointed towards the left side of the bike. It's a 12mm drain bolt. You pull that out and just let the oil drain out. So while we're on the left side waiting for the rest of the oil to drain out, we are going to go ahead and start draining the coolant out of it. which will be with this bottom screw right here. Let's take this screw out and the coolant should start coming out, and then we'll flush it out as well. Alright, so I'm going to start flushing the coolant, and once again using the Amsoil antifreezing coolant, and this is compatible. In other words, you don't need to flush your system. This is compatible with all other colors, and it's a 50-50 blend, so if something happens and you have to add water or whatever down the road, you can do that. So just going to start flushing the system out. And another, like I said before, the reason I use Amsoil is because I like what they stand for. I like their products. And there's a lot of misconceptions. It seems like, you know, a lot of people tell me, well, if I use Amsoil, I can't go back to regular conventional oil. You know, what happens if my engine blows and, you know, everything. There's a lot of hesitance when it comes to Amsoil with some people. And there's a lot of good oils out there. One of the things with Amsoil is they're fully synthetic. Well, it's their additive package that makes their oil so special. And all I'm doing here is just flushing the system out, making sure we get all the way down to the bottom of it, cleaning it out. So one of the things I will say about Amsoil in regards to people that are afraid, you know, what happens if I put Amsoil in my vehicle and it messes the engine up or damages some parts? Well, one, it's not going to damage any parts. And number two, Amsoil's warranty, and no other manufacturer says this, Amsoil's warranty is if you use their oil the way they recommend you to use it. For example, they have a signature series that for like vehicles and all that kind of stuff where you only have to change your oil once a year. They recommend you to change it once a year or every 20,000 miles. There's other manufacturers out there that recommend the same thing, but Amsoil is the only one that warranties their work. So if you use their oil and it damages parts or whatever within the 20,000 miles for the 1 year, and it's determined that it was the oil's fault, Amsoil replaces the damaged parts. And I don't know of any other oil companies that are willing to do that. So that's another reason I use Amsoil. They stand behind their products and they have good products. So we're going to go ahead and give it another shot, and then we're going to go ahead and put the drain bolt back in. Fill her up. And all we got to do is put oil back in it. And we'll have the coolant, oil, and the spark plug changed, as simple as that. So I'll just go ahead and put the drain bolt back in. By the way, the M109 can still be won, so make sure you get on the Patreon page and support us on there if you're interested in winning the M109. As soon as we give the M109 away, we're going to go off of what the voters' recommendation is, and we're going to start building something else that we can give away. A little bit of leakage there from the overflow, not a big deal. There's 100 different ways and theories on how to do all this stuff. Different people have different ways. What you see me do on these bikes and everything, it might not be your way, it might not be somebody else's way, but it works for me, and I haven't broken anything yet. So normally coolant, you'll see it bubble up and all that kind of stuff. You know, you fill it up, and usually I like to let the cap off and let it sit for a few hours, or if you're able to, start it up and run it, just to get all the bubbles up out from the bottom and all that. You don't want any You want as least amount of air in your cooling system as possible. But as far as changing the oil on these and flushing the coolant system out, very easy, and it's something that the bike likes, and it keeps it running longer, and keeps it running stronger. It's very easy to get to, so why not do it on a regular basis? All right, so we're going to put the oil drain bolt back in, put the proper amount of oil in. And while we do that, we're going to leave this cap off. Hopefully let some bubbles come up through. And then once we rebuild the carb and everything, of course we'll start it and see if we can't get some more bubbles to come up through. So while the oil is draining out, we're going to go to the right side of the engine. And you can see here there's a cap that says oil 1500 milliliters, and it's got two Allen bolts that keep it in there. That's your filter, and we're going to pull that off and put a new filter in. As you can see, we pulled the old filter out. There's a little nipple in there, and something to remember on the new filter, you have a rubber side and a metal side. You want to make sure that the rubber side goes towards the bike. So you want this rubber piece to fit over that nipple that I showed you on the inside. And then another thing is, when you pull the old filter out, or when you pull the cap out, there's a spring that comes out with the cap. You can see that there is a nipple on the cap as well. And you want that spring to sit right on top of that, and then the spring goes inside here to help hold the new filter inside. Another thing I like to do is I like to smear a little bit of oil around this rubber part. Just helps keep the rubber alive and helps seal it off a little more. So we got the oil changed, and the next thing we're going to do, next week's episode, will be on rebuilding the RMZ-450 carburetor and putting it back in the bike, and we'll see how she runs. Once again, thanks a lot for watching, and make sure you tune in every week. I'm always doing something. Try to give people a little bit of insight on how to do some things, or do some fun stuff. So again, make sure you get on the Patreon page and get in on the chances to win the M109. And even if you don't want the M109, if you win it, sell it and buy whatever bike you want. And the sooner we give the M109 away, the sooner we can get started on the next project. Speaking of the next project, while you're on the Patreon page, vote. Make sure you get your vote in on what we're going to build next, whether it's a street bike, UTV, ATV, another or build a dirt bike. And once we decide on that, then we can pick out what model and all the parts that go on it. A lot of fun stuff. So make sure you get on there and sign up, support me on Patreon, and get your chances to win cool stuff. I'm giving away helmets and all that kind of stuff as well. And make sure you vote. So thanks for watching this week. I'll see you next week.